working on it. All right, and now I don't have any goddamn things here either because they've changed that too. Ooh, I'm going to murder people.
Ooh.
Today is not a good day to mess with me. Ooh, I'm going to murder somebody.
Ooh.
Everything's off of here. I don't know who's been messing with this. I'm going to kill someone this morning. Today's not a good day to mess with me. I'm ready. I'm so ready for a fight. You know when you like, and before anybody climbs into James in the comments, not him, somebody else who was buggering around yesterday. Oof. I can't wait. I can't wait to fight and fuck someone up. No, today's the day. Hello, Pums. The lovely Phumi Mashiro is here.
Wow.
Hello, Pums.
Wow.
Welcome. Welcome to the show.
Dude, take a deep breath. Woosa. You got to rub your ears and woosa yourself. Just woosa yourself.
I know, I'm ready. Today's Murder Central. Watch, that's what's going to happen. Anyway, how are you?
I'll be here to like hopefully like mediate. Please don't kill anyone.
No, I want to. I actually, when you really like you've been waiting.
Do you think you'll get away with the murder?
Yeah.
Do you think you'll get away with it?
This is South Africa. Please, of course we can. I spoke to someone a while ago in the police, and they said if you're ever going to murder somebody, this is the place and the time, because their forensics and ballistics are way behind. You'll be dead by the time they find the evidence to convict you. You just have to be clever.
You'll be dead, man. Listen.
You have to be clever. It's about how you dispose of the body. Since you brought this up, I've thought about this.
How would you dispose of the body, Gareth?
So we have discussed this on the show.
With whom?
No, we've discussed it a number of times on the show. Over 10 years, it's come up a few times. Is this horrific to you?
Devastated to know that this is the company I keep. Wow.
No, it doesn't mean I'm going to kill anybody.
Wow.
Not every day.
I've watched enough crime and investigation channel to know that all it needs, it's just, as long as you've thought about it enough.
Oh no, I have. Believe you me.
Then it takes like.
So what you do is
most taboos.
You drop the body in a smelter, and we have a few of those. We have one in Richards Bay. We used to have one in Pretoria. Isco used to have one.
So how would you get the body to Richards Bay? Like weekend at Bernie's?
No. So
just
this is where most of the crooks get caught out and the murderers get caught out is they have an accomplice, and that's where your leaky plot line comes along, because the more people know, the more dangerous
one person knows.
Gets.
One person. If you tell another person, then 11 people know.
Is that how it works? You're the one who watches all these crime and investigation shows.
No.
Yeah. You are the one who watches all that stuff. I know.
Listen, what we're dealing with. I'm on a new podcast. Let me tell you, the title of this episode is How Putin Killed the Entire Kremlin.
Listen, she had a meeting with me on Monday morning, and she was coughing and spluttering, and she sounded like she had the flu, and you still sound a little like if you laugh a lot, you just start to cough.
We mustn't laugh a lot today.
It becomes a laugh. Not a laugh, a laugh.
Listen, this past weekend, Putin's murders.
Oh, wow. It's a whole series?
It's a whole series. This one is the full Stalin. I love it.
Gareth, remember, says Congo Chris, if you're trying to hide a body, plant an endangered tree over the body. That way it's illegal to dig it up. Never. Listen to that terrible cough of yours, lingering in the back of the laugh. Hermine says there's a crematorium for cows and stuff at Onestepoort. No one would know if you chucked the body in there.
I'm also disturbed by the fact that all these comments, are helping you murder people.
Pums, these are our people. These are the people I trust. If I were to murder someone and I told them, they wouldn't tell anybody. That's how it works. All right, so let's get the day started, shall we? There's so much to do, so many things to say, so many places to go. So first of all, I think our audience are onto me, because I got a message this week from a listener of ours who said, hey, are you desperately trying to court the Afrikaans market? So I said, well, what are you talking about? So she said to me, no, well, I noticed that you had Kurt Darren on Monday. So I was like, yeah.
Good, then he's here.
Good Darren, right? So I had Kurt Darren on Monday. Then Tuesday, we had, for the Democracy 101 show, we had somebody who has a show on CakeNet.
Is
Yes.
she the lady that had gated the other
Yes,
day?
correct.
I saw that.
And she was terrific too.
She is quite lovely.
So we had her on.
And this morning
we've got the Vryheidsfront
Okay,
Plus.
maybe it's just the Afrikaans week.
I'm telling you, we got
This is the
Dr.
Afrikaans week.
Pieter Groenewald on today. So we had Lorenzo Eckhart, we had Kurt Darren, and now we have Dr. Pieter Groenewald. So we've got all
It's
this.
the Afrikaans
It's
week.
Afrikaans week.
It's Afrikaans week.
Do you know how they have Shark Week on, on one of those channels? Now we have Afrikaans Week.
It's
that's what we
Afrikaans
do.
week.
So everybody get
Afrikaans
into
week.
it. Did I tell you Kurt invited me to some gig of his on Saturday?
Oh
So I'm thinking of going. I'm seriously thinking of going. I think it'll be
Is it
loads
like
of fun.
near you, Centurion side.
No, it's further than where I am. It's in Pretoria.
My.
Yeah, I know it's proper.
Oh,
Yeah,
you should go though. New experiences are always
I
such
think I'm keen.
new experiences.
No, I'm
Hey,
keen.
this is why I wanted to tell you about going to the market, right? Because I hadn't been to the market theater in such a long time.
Oh yeah, what did you go watch?
I went to watch The Cry of Winnie Mandela, which is it's based on a book. And it is a harrowing play because the story of Winnie Mandela is so polarizing. And it's a brilliant play. You remember Rami?
Yes, of
She
course.
used to be on Cliff Central.
Yes.
Rami is one of the four
Rami
characters. Rami Chwene is one of the four characters in the play. She is.
Is there someone playing Winnie?
Yeah.
Oh.
Nambita Bumloana.
Oh, wow.
And she,
Good.
very good.
Because I mean, Winnie, larger than life human being, and therefore, whoever portrays her has to get that right.
Shoo.
That's a difficult role.
And the
I
play,
mean, ask Madiba. She was a very difficult.
you know.
She was a very difficult.
So I think a lot of people that listen to us are probably around our age and much younger. So there are people that don't know about the salacious affair between Mama Winnie and
Dalimpofu.
Dalimpofu.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and there's
famous advocate Dalimpofu, who was this week getting Jacob Zuma back on the ballot.
Yeah.
Good.
There was so there's lots of reference to that. There's audio part of the play is audio recordings from the divorce proceedings between Nelson and Winnie.
Wow. Actual recordings?
Actual recording.
Sure,
you
that
hear
sounds like
Madiba's voice.
I think I've got to go to this show. I'm going to watch this show. That sounds amazing. It's still on?
It's still on till the 21st. Still until the 21st.
Listen,
and it's
ordinarily wild horses could not drag me to a show. I hate them. I hate plays.
Really?
I'm the opposite of a theater person. And it's the market, you said.
And this is the other thing is the market. So the market is in Newtown.
No, I'm out.
But the building is still just so I love the market theater. I love the precinct.
I'm not going.
All of that.
It's not going to happen.
So beautiful.
There was a time in my life where I got in the car and gone, and I would have loved it. That time is over.
Grumpy.
I am. No, I'm waiting. I said to you, today's the day to fight with
you're
people.
Grumpy.
Anyone who gets in my way today is in for a very hard time. I feel like this guy.
This is the worst lunch I ever had.
That's what I feel like. I feel like him. All right. So I want to start us off with something stupid today. Are you ready for something stupid?
Yes.
Because there are so many people who are going about their lives. I don't include the people who listen to this show. Obviously, these people keep us on our toes. They fill us in with information we may miss. They are doing as good a job as we could possibly wish. But there are many out there who are not. Many absolute morons, okay? And chief among these morons is the hens on The View. Just pick a hen. I mean, like Whoopi's stupid. Joy Behar is even more stupid than Whoopi. Sunny Hostin's more stupid than Joy and Whoopi put together. Now we're going to infinite regressions of stupid, right? And the other chicks are who even knows who they are. But these women, it's like they compete every time that show goes on to see who can be the most meat-headed, mouth-breathing, knuckle-dragging, ignoramus in American media. You want proof?
Gareth.
You think I'm being unkind? Okay.
I don't know how to push the reset button with you this morning.
No, you don't have to.
Where's the reset button?
Okay, this is hilarious, but it also has removed all the fun from making fun of climate change people. Because just listen to this, all right? So this week, obviously in America, big week for idiots because there was an eclipse.
And earthquake.
Well, let's just stick to the eclipse for now because an eclipse is like a magnet for stupid people. It seems to draw them out of their caves. And I think it happened Monday evening.
No, I know.
Monday
but
during the day.
when did the eclipse become that? Because there've been eclipses.
Oh, in ancient times.
But
in ancient times.
I was also blown away by some of the stuff that the woo-woo.
You see,
woo-woo
if you want to confuse, like in the old days, the peasants, if you wanted to like dumbfound the peasants, all you had to do is say to them, "You've been evil and God is going to take away the sun." And then the moon would pass between the sun and the earth, and these peasants, stupefied peasants, they would run screaming, "Oh, we've angered God. It's all over for it." It still works today. So here are some stupefied peasants on The View. Just take a listen to this and try not to completely lose your mind. Okay, you ready? Ready,
Must I like get my tissue and turn off my mic? Am I going to laugh and laugh and laugh?
Yourself.
We've got a solar eclipse. We've got the earthquake. She ran down the hallway.
The rapture is here.
The rapture's here. And then also I learned that the cicadas are coming.
Cicadas.
Although I love for the first time in like 100 years.
No.
Two different. Well, this is what I read.
There's two different kinds of cicadas.
Yes, two different times are coming.
The good cicadas and the bad cicadas.
But for the first time in many, many years.
No, every 17 years this happens.
Well, that's not what I read, but maybe. Maybe
well,
you know better. But
in
I
a
will
way,
say all those things together would maybe lead one to believe that either climate change exists, or something is really going on.
Returning. Earthquakes are not at the mercy of climate change. It's underground.
It happens, and the eclipse. They've known about the eclipse coming because eclipses.
Oh boy! All right. So first things first.
Wow.
You don't have to be smart to know that cicadas, which are kind of insect, and as Whoopi, who again I said is cleverer than Sunny, who is dumber than Joy. There's a like trappe van vergelijking since it's Afrikaans week. So this woman has just brought up three things, none of which are related to the climate at all. The first being cicadas, okay, which are not. Every 17 years, as Whoopi said, these cicadas come out. They are in hibernation and then they come out. It's a well-known phenomenon. You can set your watch by it, okay? Number two, earthquakes. Earthquakes have nothing to do with human beings putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Zero. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Maybe there's some enormous rock that I haven't looked under yet that's been right in front of me the whole time. And the third thing, the eclipse. And this absolute ignoramus, this Sunny Hostin, who honestly should be fired just for her stupidity on this show in particular. I mean, you could choose any show and there'll be something stupid. But earthquakes, eclipses, and the behavior of insects, in this case, not one of them is related to climate change. Climate change has become such a category for these people that when they can't explain anything in the physical universe, they go, "Oh, climate change."
Gareth, so you and I have worked in different types of media over the years, right? So we know how many people are involved in getting those four 4 or 5 women
Yeah.
in front of a camera
Right.
with all of the stuff that they say.
Right. Mostly for them, though, it's makeup and wardrobe because they're so stupid that they have to at least look good.
But
And
there's,
Sunny
like,
looks good. I'll give her that.
There's a written script. There's an autocue. There's a, you know,
Well.
there's stuff. And so often I listen to a thing like this and I ask myself, is this deliberate? Is this deliberate? Like, has everybody in the room sat down and
No.
said, this is how we're playing this, girls. This is, and then they walk
Can't
away
be.
from there and laugh and laugh and laugh.
It can't
It's
be.
insane. How is when we have Google? I mean, we have more access to information today than ever before in human history, right?
Sure.
Just
I think
Wikipedia, even if
what's
you
happening-
don't do a
honestly,
general Google, you know?
Let me tell you what I think is happening. You are Occam's razor would say that the simplest explanation here is the most reasonable, and most likely.
The most, yeah.
So these are not people who read. They're not. They really are not. These are hacks. I mean, Whoopi used to be funny. She's now just fat and morose. Joy has never been interesting. She's never ever done anything except yak and yenter it up.
Unbelievable.
And she really was. She was like, when Barbara Walters left that show, it created such a vacuum that it sucked the brains out of even the people, even the people who watch it. Okay, so and as for this, I mean, I couldn't make this up. You heard it. I did not doctor that recording. I did not have to create like an out of context way for it to sound bad. It sounds bad from beginning to end. That there are people this stupid in the world and that there are people stupid enough to watch and listen to these people.
But this is what I'm saying,
This
right?
is why America is
There
self-destructing.
are people, so they on their own are the mess that they are.
Jesus.
But there are producers and writers and who have put them on that platform, who have put them on a screen every morning for how long? How long has this been going on? And then there are millions of people who tune in.
Yeah. This is what
Millions of people who tune in. This is
okay. So just let's leave. Let's leave climate change alone because that is as dumb as it's going to get.
So like you were saying, Gareth, that in the olden days, in the medieval days, all you had to do was just to cause mass panic first, and then compliance is feed the people incorrect information. I'm telling you, this is it. This is it. These ladies and what they're feeding these millions of people, it is a deliberate ploy to keep the people.
I promise.
Like,
no one is so self-consciously a fraud. No, they're not. I mean, they'd be in church. They'd be ministering if they were. They are, because they do try to be sensible a lot of the time. I would buy your argument if you bring up politics.
But that's how that is actually all you need is you need a grain of truth in it. You need that grain of authenticity.
You sound like a conspiracy theorist.
I'm telling you, this is what's happening. Because how else can it be this willfully? How can all these people be part of this willful kind of ignorance? Come on. I'm telling you, it's a ploy. It's a ploy to keep the masses under the thumb.
I don't know. Congo Chris, in honor of Afrikaans Week, has changed his name to Congo Christoffel. He says, what the hell is Whoopi still doing on the show? Didn't she say she was glad the Holocaust happened or something idiotic like that? Yeah, she said Hitler wasn't so bad, and he certainly wasn't a racist, she said. Because she thinks race can only, she's real. She's a real rocket scientist, that one. And trust me when I say, because I used to be a big Whoopi Goldberg fan, when she was still doing stand-up, at the same time as Robin Williams, Bill Crystal, and all of those guys were doing it. She was fantastic. She was a groundbreaker. But I think she's also, when Barbara Walters,
so
the vacuum just sucked her brains out as well.
One of the very first movies I ever saw her in. I mean, and I saw sister actors on Disney, I think, right now.
Yeah.
is a film called Jumping Jack Flash.
I've never seen that.
Oh my gosh, she's amazing. She is like scintillating, and she's still young and new and
unbelievable. I think Carl's right here, and Phumi, you're giving these morons way too much credit. They're very, very stupid. They're not even capable of playing a role, Phumi. That's the problem.
You know what it's like? It's like what's that? The Usual Suspects, that movie with Kaiser Soze.
Yeah,
where the plot twist is so mind blowing.
So the next thing Pumi's going to tell me, next thing she's going to tell me is that she believes in Bigfoot and aliens and.
I keep telling you.
What's going on with your nails there? Pumi's been busy with her
happened?
nails. Show us the nails.
Can you see?
Looking good. There we go. She's what? So we got a dark blue there.
Yeah,
Prussian blue.
No, it's called midnight something.
Oh,
I wonder who names these things. Right? It's called midnight camel.
Huh.
It always nail polish and lipsticks have the most amazing names, and there's someone whose job it is to come up with midnight camel. But I did my nails last night, okay? Just to come on the show and then nice nails, And then
we appreciate that, by the way.
Stayed
Thank
up
you.
so late waiting for them to dry. And eventually I went to bed because I thought they were like dry. And this morning when I woke up, they were smudged.
I'm sorry. You went to all that trouble for us.
So that's why I had to just do a little touch up this morning.
Well,
so
you see now,
while you were busy fidgeting over there, it gave me enough time to just do a little.
If the View were talking about stuff like that, then maybe they'd be in their area of expertise. Could they get the makeup artist that they yam? Can you imagine working on that show? Imagine having those yentas just in your ear the whole time.
In the makeup room.
Oh my God.
In the makeup room just before the show starts. And the show is early, right? So they get there.
I would venture that the discussion in the makeup room and the discussion of the show are absolutely, there's no way to tell the difference between the two.
No.
I think they are the same. Yeah, I think they're the same.
I'm going to stick with my conspiracy theory that this is a larger conspiracy to keep the people dumb.
Oh my God.
Because did you see what happened on X and all these platforms and TikTok kind of leading up to the eclipse, or every single one of the crockpots came out of
That's what
the
I'm
woodwork.
saying.
But this feeds that.
Yes, but I think this is just them being them. I really don't know. You see, you're ascribing way too much work to something which you could just roll the boulder downhill. Like, this is not complicated. These women are actually extremely low IQ. Really? So, okay, here's another one, just in case you thought that you hadn't heard enough dumb for one morning. So this is a guy they interview on Eclipse Day. And again, this does not redound well in America's favor, okay? Any of this, The View, this clip I'm going to play you now. This guy is what you call an indigenous scientist. Science.
What does that mean?
Science does not care where it originates.
What does that mean?
You're about to find out.
Okay.
So this is the guy. I don't know where they found him in Dallas, I think. The reporters in Dallas. Take a listen. You can inform yourself on a number of levels here. You will first learn what an indigenous scientist is. Second of all, you will learn that apparently you require the wisdom of the elders to not look at the sun during an eclipse or at any other time. And the third thing you'll learn is some mythological religious mumbo jumbo that has nothing to do with science. Are you ready?
Joy in Dallas to learn more about indigenous astronomy.
When people think about science, they might be thinking of Western science. So, David, how does that relate to indigenous science? And what did the total eclipse mean to the Navajo people?
I think the knowledge on the eclipse goes way back. From time immemorial, I'm told by my elders. And they knew that when you look at the sun directly, you can damage your eyes permanently. And so they knew that about the danger of looking at the eclipse with the naked eye. So people were encouraged to go inside to ensure that people weren't looking up, especially the kids, So it goes way back. And as far as eclipses, it's a time of renewal, the sun alignment with the moon and also the earth alignment. The whole cosmic cycle goes.
All right, I can't take too much more of that. So, first of all, did you know that the ancients told the children not to look at the sun? Because, of course, any child, unless they're born blind, and even blind children know not to look at the sun because you can feel that heat burning into your retina, whether it works or not. But this is an indigenous scientist. So not only do we require The View and Sunny Hostin to give us
I'm telling you
her interpretation of astronomical observations, but we now also need a Navajo Indian who's going to tell us that because the elders, who I assume, when he means the elders, the people who lived at the same time as him at some point, because otherwise they wouldn't be his elders, they'd be his ancestors, and he couldn't have learned from them because they're dead. And if it's an oral tradition, it would have to have been maybe his grandparents, maybe if he's lived a really long time, his great-grandparents.
So the other thing about America...
Hold on. What these ancestors handed to him, the great gift that these brilliant, wise elders of his passed down unto him was, do not look at the sun. No. I mean, instead of passing on the wheel, or this is how you make a microchip, or this is how you do the steam engine. No, they passed on, do not look at the sun. Indigenous scientists.
The other thing about America is it's prone to charlatans, right? Like I didn't see a picture of this guy, and I'm wondering if he was probably dressed.
He was dressed up. Oh, for sure he was.
Right. So people can think that he's some kind of shaman. But I'm telling you, America is also prone to grifters of all sorts. And I think this is one of, but my conspiracy remains. I think there's a whole long list of people this is about controlling the masses.
All right,
controlling the masses.
But who's paying the piper here? Like, who's in charge of these media entities that are keeping people stupid? Who? See, this is where it becomes a conspiracy theory. I think most people are stupid. You don't have to keep them stupid. That's why when they see the eclipse, they run and hide under trees and behind bushes and walls and under buildings, because they're like the primitive. They're like primitive mammals that, when, have you ever seen a shrew? Like if there's a noise, the shrew shits itself and they can't see very well. So shrews have to like follow each other. There's one at the front that also doesn't know where it's going. Literally the blind leading the blind. I think people are like that. And because we live in the age of technology and we got Chat GPT, we think people know that we live on a round planet that is revolving, around which the moon revolves. Sometimes the moon comes between the sun and us. Quite often, actually. It happens a few times in everyone's lifetime. So it's not like a Halley's Comet, every couple of 100 years or so. Not everybody gets to see Halley's Comet, but this still confounds people. This week on planet Earth, there are people going,
in 2024,
I ain't never seen in my life a solar eclipse.
Gareth, I asked you nicely this morning. There's too much laughing going on because now, no, my chest can't take it.
Here's something that would have helped all of these morons. Here's an actual video someone took of the eclipse. Look at this. This is impressive. I think this is great.
It is, hey?
From an airplane. Look at this. It's fantastic. This gives you see that? Whew. That's beautiful.
Wow.
That is quite something. And look how short-lived it is, right? I mean, that's really beautiful. So if you didn't see that there, that's probably your highlight of the morning. But now you know what an indigenous scientist is, and we pander to these people. We put them on. I mean, how is that different to putting on a fire and brimstone preacher who's telling you that it's the sins of homosexuals or whatever. This guy yammering on about the elders. God, I'm going to mute you while you cough up a lung. How's this different from those guys who would stand on the corner of a street yelling at passers-by going, repent, repent, or the waves are going to come and the volcanoes will explode. And that's what climate change people are like. So I can see the attraction. I can see how like they would throw the two together in some sort of desperate pagan attempt to make sense of stuff that is just too hard to read about. It's just too hard.
Horrifying.
Okay, so
horrifying. I was with a friend of mine yesterday. Who was going, Phumi, I really don't want to live much longer because it's all kind of shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
wait.
She's like, no.
I've got something else to show you. So
my God. Is this going to make me laugh until I cough up another line?
No. This is meek and mild. So,
gosh.
You know, they finally decided e-tolls don't count anymore. You don't have to pay.
No. They're switching them off tonight.
Right.
But if your arrears.
Yeah, sure.
You must pay your arrears.
Yeah, sure. Like they're going to get that out of me. As I've quoted him a lot this week, Charlton Heston said, out of my cold, dead hands will Sanrel get my e-toll money. But I saw this, so I got this from one of the rental companies, Europcar. It said, cancellation. We refer to the government gazette, blah, blah, blah. And then they say, kindly note that as a result of this, all e-tags issued to our rental fleet will be deactivated. Well done. Slow clap for the slow people at the rental car agency, because these guys were among the first to sign up for e-tolls. Remember? All of them. And in fact, Wayne Duvenage used to be the Avis CEO or something. Wasn't he? From
Was he?
He was at Avis. And I think they fell out over that. Because he was like, I'm surmising, because it was around the same time that he resigned and started Outer. And he was like, why should we be paying this money to these corrupt people who are going to try and make a stealth tax on us? And remember, all the rental cars have that little e-tag on it.
You know who also was a very early adopter? Also an old friend of Cliff Central was Cindy Van Sale.
And Leanne Moll.
I was just like, girl.
Yeah, these are also the people who rushed to get the vaccine before everyone else. They're the same people. There's a mindset here. Some people just love being told what to do, and they just love to be slaves.
You know what? Actually, I would be so mad at all the money paid over and that you're not getting it back.
Oh, that's why I didn't hand any over in the first place. But all those people who did, all I can say is you deserve it.
Arbot, that is a very good question in the comments. What about the normal toll gates with the tag in your car? Because remember that
that'll still work.
So you can just, gosh.
Well, who knows, right? The rental companies are a huge target financially. If they ignored it, the government would milk them. Well, don't make excuses for them, because if they'd all stood up for themselves like the citizens of this country did, they might have had a chance. I have no
So
sympathy.
there you go. A win for civil disobedience.
Correct. Absolutely.
Absolute win for civil disobedience.
And then there's this. This is quite funny too. So Apple updated their iOS last night while you were sleeping.
Okay.
I didn't sleep, so I saw it happen. And guess what? They've given us some new emojis. Are you ready?
Oh,
So
show me the new emojis.
We just spoke about this one now, the vaccine. They've now made a different syringe. This is 2024, okay? Just let me remind you, you're not listening to a podcast. We did not record this secretly in 2020 and transport you back in
There's
time.
no blood.
So they've made a new emoji, but they've taken the blood out of the syringe emoji. So if you type in syringe now, you'll get a syringe without blood in it. You know why? It makes the emoji more versatile when used to describe COVID-19 vaccination.
Okay.
How is that still a thing? And who at Apple is so backward that they would pay e-tolls and use the empty syringe vaccine emoji? I mean, there's some dumbasses in this world, and today is our day to reveal them all. Here's another one, Phumi. So guess what else they updated?
I I didn't even know there was a.
They've made 200 different kinds of men and women with beards. Okay. So in a world where the average
200
American...
types.
200, because obviously each one has different color variations, skin tones, and so on. So it's probably only 10, but each one has like 5 different color variations. Anyway, we've just discussed for the last 15 minutes how stupid the average American is. And now we can see that it's not a conspiracy. This proves my point, and it disproves yours, because this is what people want. Someone at Apple thinks, you know what, we're going to do either market research or we're going to go with my gut. But either way, I know what people are really clamoring for, Phumi, is more
amazing.
Women with beard emojis. Because they're such a commonplace occurrence.
Wow. I've never seen the syringe emoji.
I thought you were going to say, I've never seen a woman with a beard. Yeah, I haven't seen that either.
I don't know a beard, but I have this one.
Have you ever used the syringe emoji?
I didn't even know there was a syringe emoji.
Now you know. And if you want to use the woman with a beard, you can use that too.
But I do want to talk about this one little...
Oh, come on. Sis. Do we need to have these? Look at those.
Do you
Look
think
at
I'm
those.
growing a beard?
I should hope not. You'll be off the show quickly. Have a look here. There's a blonde woman with a beard and mustache. Then there's a dark-haired woman with a beard and mustache.
So I wouldn't have known that that's a woman. I would have just thought it's like a John Lennon type person. It's like a hippie with long hair.
Well, it's very important. As they say here, most emojis these
So how
days.
do they decide that? You see, this is the problem with this type of stuff, right? Because now you're going down a rabbit hole, and I'm going, how do you decide that that little hair flick thing is a woman?
Well, they're opening up the sluice gates for themselves here, because now everybody's going to want an emoji among their emojis that represents exactly them, right? So you're going to have people who have one eye. You're going to have people who have
but you can customize.
Remember that? Remember there was that
emojis.
woman whose face was ripped off by the chimp.
What?
Yeah, a couple of years ago, the face ripper chimp tore this woman's face off. She'd kept it as a pet for a while. One day it turned feral and it tore her face off. She's going to want her own emoji. Now, we're all going to have to download her fucking emoji next time they do an update. They're going to be people who want their face made wider. They're going to be, Jacob Zuma's going to want one with a dent in his head, like especially for him. You're going to want one with the midnight camel nail polish.
Yes,
okay?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So
midnight camel nail polish, please.
This is just insanity. And honestly, if you ever needed to understand the decline and fall of an empire, America, this is yours. Just take this 43 minutes of the show so far. In the time capsule, somewhere in the future, where some historian is writing down, I wonder what happened.
What was not on my bingo card for this morning is talking about a dented head emoji for Jacob Zuma.
Don't you think? It's gonna come. We're all gonna have to download it now. We have to talk about something. You filled me in on this. I didn't even know this was happening. But Jackie Phamotse is under house arrest now
for 2 years.
Okay, I don't know anything
2
about
years.
Sketch the scenario, because when I heard about this, it blew my mind. I didn't even know this was a story.
So this story, I think most of us on social media had forgotten about the story, but it came back flooding our timelines a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So about 6 years ago, Jackie Phamotse, who's a writer, she wrote that book. I don't even know which book it is, whether it's The Blessed Girl or whatever. She wrote a book about blessers and Joburg nightlife and the after nines and all of those things, right? So about 6 years ago or so, she tweeted something about a Joburg celebrity couple. The husband caught on video in a compromising position with a young boy or something of that sort.
Ooh.
It was very salacious. It was she did not name anybody.
Okay.
But the rumor mill went oft.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it became about Basetsane and Romeo. I don't know how those two things collided. But Basetsane then opened a case against her and sued her for defamation.
Mm-hmm.
6 years of a case, which eventually came to an end about 2 months ago.
And now she's under house arrest.
And I don't know, I think 2 years house arrest in lieu of incarceration and a fine and 2 years.
Unbelievable.
In the house.
Because she doesn't have money.
Yeah. That was her. She's like, I don't have this kind of money.
So instead of making her pay for the defamation, she has to go to jail for the defamation, which is kind of not the point of defamation. Because how does her sitting under house arrest help Basetsana, who was suing her? How does that help her?
Oh, but Basetsana had a
this is where the law
deep and emotional victim impact statement to the court.
Okay, first of all, you heard about the Streisand effect, right? It's like,
okay, so tell everybody else.
All right, so Barbara Streisand once sued someone for putting a picture of her house in Malibu on the internet. But by suing this person who put the picture of her house on the internet, suddenly everyone in the world saw the picture of her house on the internet. If she just shut up and left the guy who put her picture up,
unintended consequence.
No one would have known what her house. Now everyone in South Africa, America,
everywhere.
India, Pakistan, they all know
even
where Barbara
people who
Streisand
didn't know who Barbara Streisand was.
I mean,
now know where she
no one should know who Barbara Streisand is, but there we go. All right, so this is similar here. Like, why if Basetsana just left it alone?
Years. So when it comes back 2 months ago, now that the case has finally come to an end or whatever, it's 6 years later.
Okay.
Imagine all the people who weren't on social media 6 years ago. I mean, people who don't even know who Romeo and Basetsana are.
No.
Now they're all part of this conversation all over again.
So she's brought this upon herself in some way. Anyway, I mean, God bless her. I don't have any issues with Basetsana or with Romeo or with Jackie Phamotse for that matter. But let's just say this. This is a very piss-poor example of how the justice system does not work.
So,
now, hang on. I just want to get this off my chest. So first of all, they can ask, and they should have asked for specific performance, right? Rather than, like, I don't see how Jackie staying at home, and someone in the comments says house arrest is just like lockdown. So we've all had that experience. I don't see how this helps Basetsana.
I know, and being in my house for 2 years, not having to go anywhere.
I don't see how that's a punishment. I don't see how it's a punishment for Jackie. I don't see how it's bad for her in any way. I don't see how it's good for Basetsana. I don't see how it helps alleviate what she says is trauma.
Ooh.
So what they should have done, I have a solution. I should be a judge.
Okay, what should they have
I'd
done?
have said, ladies, first of all,
go home.
Get out of my court. What stupidity is this, right? Just stop it. This is the stuff that, who cares who's gossiping about you and your husband? Basetsana, grow up here. You're a rich, happy, spoiled housewife who's got a very good production company. You have nothing to worry about. Just go home and laugh and cry into your money. Use your money to wipe your tears away if it really upsets you. Get out of my court. Second of all, you, Jackie, stop writing bullshit about people. Here's your punishment without even having to hear any evidence or testimony. This is why I should be a judge, Phumi. Jackie, you're going to work in Basetsana's house, cleaning for her for free.
Children.
For free. For a year. She can make you do all the chores she would have given to her nanny, housekeeper, servant, whatever, but you don't get paid.
But that is punishment for both of them. Because now Basetsana has to be with Jackie every day.
Do you see the genius of my ruling? Do you see how I should be in charge? Look at this. I've solved the problem because the people of South Africa do not have time for our courts to be clogged with bullshit like this. So I will punish these two both. They're both guilty of wasting. It's called vexatious wastage of court time and resources. Put Jackie in Basetsana's house.
Oh, God.
Which will drive Basetsana up the wall, but she's asked for it. Make Jackie work for free like a slave because she's earned it. And none of us have to be involved. Thank you, Chief Justice Gareth Cliff. You've just solved, and this is just but one of the problems that I would solve.
Yeah, no, that I think that's a good solution, actually.
Thank you.
That is a good solution.
Thank
Gareth,
you.
That's
what I'm here for.
That ruling, Gareth, has redeemed your grumpiness of the day. It redeems you. That ruling is perfect because I've been upset on so many different levels about this thing. I was upset about why am I in it? Why is this on my timeline?
Yes.
Why I don't even somebody saying
I was angry with you when you first told me about this. I was cross with you for having made me aware of it. My life was better.
And once you know.
My life was better before I knew this.
And it's one of those things that you can't unsee, right? Once you know, now you're like, what? This is insane. And then you're like going into, then you're in it. You're like, and 6 years. 6 years. I hope Jackie writes a book during the time that she is in her lockdown, in her own private lockdown. Somebody asked if she's allowed alcohol. I have no idea what you are.
What she isn't allowed to do is write a book, because if she sells a book, she's living on the proceeds of crime.
No, but the book has nothing to do with anything. It could be a book about anything.
Who's going to want to read her pining on climate change?
Well, apparently, people want to read what she has to say. Apparently.
Maybe only when it's
allegedly.
Gossip. See, again, this would never happen in a world where people had survival on the table. Like, can you imagine our great-grandparents ever getting into a conversation about this kind of nonsense? No. They didn't have time. Our great-grandparents were so busy trying to scratch some food together and make a fire and keep the family from starving that they didn't have this shit. And don't tell me you've got trauma. I mean, not one of these women must tell me they've got trauma.
That must have been traumatic.
Oh, please. Please. They should both be on The View. That's how dumb this is. All right. So Sanele says we should call this the real network of justice.
Justice, Baba, justice.
Damn straight. We may have lost Justice Malala, but we've got Justice Gareth back. All right. What do you want to know about here? Do you want to know about...
Are we going to do headlines? What's the time? I can't even look.
We can try. We got like 9 minutes to do headlines. Do you want to know about the fact that South Africa is one of the 10 largest nitrogen dioxide emission hotspots in the world?
What does that mean?
So we're apparently putting... Nitrogen dioxide is not a good chemical. I'll tell you that much. NO2, it's got a brown red color.
Does it come from us?
Stings the nostrils. It makes nitric acid when you mix it with water. So in the atmosphere, it creates acid rain. And it's not nitric acid is really not a friend. Even dilute nitric acid can do enormous damage. What it does do on the positive side, because people always look at these chemicals and go, what's an evil chemical? Well, no. Helps put nitrogen back in the soil. Plants need nitrogen.
Yes.
In order to, it's like a fertilizer effectively. And they use it to fuse and synthesize other chemical compounds. And a little bit of nitrogen, because as an inert gas, as N2, it doesn't do much. It can only be turned into other things with lightning.
Oh, wow.
So there's always a bit of nitrogen dioxide in the air. Mm-hmm. But now, of course, the climate change people are onto us, because Greenpeace Africa has said that one of the most dangerous emission hotspots is in South Africa. It identifies us, Egypt, and Nigeria as the countries with the worst air quality in Africa. Remember we spoke about how Vereniging and Vanderbijl Park were like the most polluted places in terms of air quality. Now every time I see someone and they tell me they're from there, I just immediately start saying sorry. I feel sorry for them. They said that Africa is facing a major air pollution crisis, which is having a devastating impact on people's health. So they want
surprise. It is the 3 most developed economies on the continent that have, I'm sure if you look at other well-developed countries, they have a similar problem. But hey, we're not looking at them. Just let's find one more thing for Africa to worry about.
Congo Christoffel says, is it from all the polo drivers using NOS in their cars? Now, interesting. So
what is NOS?
So there's NO2, which I just told you about, brownish, reddish gas. You can see it in concentrated form. You also get NO, nitrogen oxide or nitrous oxide. Sorry, nitrous oxide is N2O. You get 3 kinds of nitric oxide. There's nitrous oxide, nitric oxide, and nitrogen dioxide. Okay, so the nitrous oxide, NOS, that they use in cars and in whipped cream is the same stuff that dentists use as an anesthetic.
Ah.
You know that laughing gas?
Yeah.
That's nitrous oxide.
Ah.
What makes that stuff so cool?
Ah.
Yeah, is that if you breathe it in, everything's hilarious. It's very nice.
Very nice.
I remember that as a kid. It was the only reason I could.
So what is it used for in the polos?
Oh, because it essentially gives more oxygen to the mix of gases in the engine, which allows it to power forward with greater volatility.
So this would be a
Creates
problem.
more explosive power in the engine.
This would be a problem prevalent in Midrand.
Wherever there are people with polos that have NOS in them, I would assume. But this is a good point. Congo Christoffel also says, I like how everyone suddenly shifts from carbon to nitrogen emissions as soon as China gets named. Yeah. And then, you know what, once we've decided that nitrogen, because maybe it does do a lot of good in terms of fertilizer in plants and so on in the soil, then they'll move on to something else. They'll say, oh, well, there's phosphorus, and then it's going to be.
But that's just the thing. That's the point I'm making, that, let's find one more thing to whip this particular continent with. And it's those top 3. I mean, we could submerge the whole of Africa and everybody in it, and it wouldn't make a dent in the carbon emissions problem.
That's exactly right.
Wouldn't make a dent.
But you know what this is? It's
so.
Oh my God, the climate.
But it is also
give more money to government. That's all it is.
But it is also a failing of African governments, right? Because they are unable.
Stand up for
they are unable to advocate for themselves.
They must stand up for them, but they're too busy
the
taking.
Biggest, I think the biggest
European
climate
money.
issue we have on this continent is water and desertification.
Correct.
That is our problem.
And water pollution, which we are responsible for. Most of the filth in the rivers and seas of the world is put into the rivers and seas of the world by African and Asian countries. So we should sort that out rather than worry about the air quality. Sorry for eniging in Vanderbijl Park. You guys will just have to develop lung cancer. Or move. Move. So we got so much to get to, including Dr. Groenewald, who's here as the leader of the Vryheidsfront Plus. We have spoken to every political leader in the country now except 4. We're still waiting for MK, ANC, DA, EFF.
And there's
the big 4.
So even as they win court battles, that MK, there is chaos and dissent among the ranks.
Listen, Carl says you're a racist because you want to sink the whole continent.
That's my evil laugh.
All right. Mike E says it's all alarmist twaddle. Toggle the NO2 map and Windy app for the real picture. I don't know what a Windy app is, but I'll take your word for it, Mike. You know, there's a thing that happens. I've discussed this already because my dad is an old man, and old men are just obsessed with the weather. Obsessed with it. Don't you?
Really? My dad's not. I don't think my dad's obsessed with the gym.
3 weather apps on his phone. He has have you ever watched the Weather Channel?
No.
There's a Weather Channel.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's on the Weather Channel?
What do you think? Hang on, I'll give you some time.
But like, what content is on there? Are they just running a real-time weather barometer?
It's just non-stop weather reports and then The View. It's for really, really bored people.
So why is he obsessed with the weather, though? Do you know?
It's an old man thing. It's they are so into. It's not just my dad. It's all.
But your
old
dad
men.
also plays golf, so of course he's obsessed with the weather.
That. It's really not that, because he's not playing golf at the moment, and he's still watching the weather. and then he on the occasion that I go there for supper, I'm sitting there, and then he tells me, like, just so you know, there's going to be rain on Thursday. And I go, well, now I'm going to have to change everything. I was going to do so much on Thursday, but now, what am I going to do?
It's going to be raining.
Yeah. I don't know. So Carl says his dad is now wearing a jacket 24/7. I saw him on the hottest day in summer, button-up shirt, jacket, and jeans. Why do old women get hot, but old men get cold?
Ooh.
Circulation is what that's called. Circulation. Naked Goose says it's because the weather affects the old bones.
Listen, my dad's obsessed with the gym, guys. When we went to my mother's house,
Your dad wasn't there. He was at the gym.
He was at the gym. The reason he wasn't there, even though I asked him, I told everybody, I'm bringing my friends, be here. He was at the gym. My dad goes to the gym 7 days a week.
That's impressive.
7
Is it?
days a week.
Is it like so many men who play golf is to get away from the wife?
This has been
Give
my
her
dad.
a bit of alone time.
No, this has been my dad.
He's always been like that. So he's super fit?
He's fit.
It's incredible.
This has been
how old is he now?
Like nearing on 70.
That's very good. He's going to, you know what? That's excellent. He'll be around for a long time.
This has been my dad from as long as I can remember. He's just, if he doesn't go to the gym, then he gets sick. He must be sick or he's getting sick. Or he gets sick from not going to the gym. That lockdown was so hard for him because he couldn't go to the gym.
I sympathize. I think that's excellent. Good for him. Here's a quick story nobody cares about just before we go to the break. And the only reason I mention it is because every news outlet, I saw this come up on my feed yesterday. I'm like, who cares? They're giving $50,000 for a gold medal at the Paris Olympics.
I thought you were going to talk about the money being handed out.
Let me ask you this. How many people in the whole world?
What did they use to give them?
Just the medal, which is already made of, I think it's either gold plated or it used to be solid gold. It actually used to be solid gold.
I thought you were going to talk about the cash handouts in Thailand.
Here's the thing. How many people in the whole world are going to ever have direct contact with this $50,000 prize money from being a gold medalist? How many? Well, I'll tell you how many. However many people win gold at the Olympics. And you know what? It is a vanishingly small number of people in the human race.
Where does the money come from?
The Olympic Committee.
Yeah, but how do they make the money?
Please. Do you know what they're charging France to host it there? It's like FIFA.
France has to pay them?
Where do you think FIFA gets the money for the World Cup every year? You think they aren't charging advertisers like a... Please.
But soccer and the Olympics.
Advertisers. It's the same thing.
Soccer and the Olympics.
Very different. Listen.
Soccer is one of the most watched sports in the world.
I don't want to get into a discussion of this. All I want to tell you is it's never going to affect you. You don't have to worry about the $50,000
I'm definitely not getting the $50,000.
All right. So neither am I. I just needed to mention that this is a non-story. And if you see it anywhere, ignore it. Save yourself some time.
But this I do want to tell you about, talking about stimulating the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thailand is giving its citizens money, actual money, sending money up to 9. What? How much?
You mean it's giving? You mean they're giving their people money back? See, this is what I never. There's always that word.
Back.
Thailand are giving the money to the people back because
back to the people. This is their money.
You asked where the Olympic Committee gets their money. Good question, but where do governments get their money? From the people. So when they give it back, actually, they shouldn't have taken it in the first place.
So there's checks in the mail for Thai people.
Well, good. They should do that here.
They should do that here.
But only to people who've actually paid tax, not to crooks like the late Marcus Jooste. All right, let's clam it up now for this. We've got loads of good stuff coming up in the Burning Platform next. That is going to be exciting. Dr. Pieter Groenewald is going to join us. He's the leader of the Freedom Front Plus and one of the parties we haven't yet spoken to ahead of these elections, which are now only 50.
Less than 50 days. I think
it was 50
48
days on Monday, I think, or Tuesday. So it's a short time before you know it.
To go.
Right. Get ready, everybody.
We need a counter. We need like a ticking clock over here.
Election counter. Okay, I'll put one
where
up.
the window is.
Let me get to it. It's just after 7.
Here by my wall.
We are live. It is time for the Burning Platform this fine Thursday morning, and we are going to be talking elections, and we've been talking to all the different political party leaders. Today is no exception to that rule. I'm excited to interview and to have in the studio none other than Dr. Pieter Groenewald. Hoe gaan het, Dr. Groenewald?
Ja, dit gaan goed, dankie. En hoop en glo dit gaan ook goed met julle.
Dit gaan baie goed met ons. Phumi and I are ready.
Dit gaan goed.
Gaan het goed, Phumi? Okay, so ons gaan 'n bietjie Afrikaans praat vanoggend.
No, that's it. That's my whole Afrikaans.
All right, so it's the first time we've ever had you on the show. We have had Courtney Mulder here last year.
Yes, this is the first time.
And he was largely here to talk about
the Moonshot
which
Pact.
became the multi-party charter.
Oh, yeah.
And today we're talking only exclusively about the Vryheidsfront Plus. So we're going to have an interesting
a little bit about the multi-party charter
and maybe a little bit about some other things. I know that you're on the portfolio for police in Parliament too, which I think is something people are very worried about in South Africa. But let's get cracking. We've got Pieter Groenewald, born in Fochville, Northwest, on a farm near Potchefstroom. And you, of course, have been in the military. You were also in the South African National Defence Force Commandos until 1989. You have a law degree.
You cannot breeze past the military and not talk about the Roman, what is the 5-horse riding simultaneously, right?
What was that?
The 5 horses.
Yes.
Tell us, what's this all about?
No, it's known as a Roman ride.
Yeah.
And when I did my military training, I did it at the equestrian center. And I rode 5 horses at the same time. You stand on them.
You're joking.
Yes.
Not in a chariot, but standing while 5 horses. You have the reins of all 5 in your hands?
Correct. I do have a photo, and I'll show you it after the show.
That's incredible. How did you know this, Phumi?
Research, my dear Watson.
Wow,
Research.
Look at you. Phumi's very well informed this morning. All right, so let's begin with the Vryheidsfront Plus and the elections. What do you think your chances are, Dr. Groenewald? I mean, you guys have actually shown nice growth. For one of the smaller parties, you've got a pretty good report card going into this election, built incrementally over the years. What do you think is going to happen in 2024?
Gareth, we are doing quite well at the moment if I look at the reaction of people, but it's always difficult. People always ask me about the percentage.
Yeah.
Now, what I say, the percentage is difficult to say, are we going to get 3% or 4%? Because it depends on how many voters are going to vote. So what I say, what I hope for, is that we can double our representation in the National Assembly. In 2019, we actually more than double it from 4 members up to 10 members. And then we have 2 members in the National Council of Provinces. So what I hope for in this election is that if we can double the 10 to 20, I will be highly satisfied and happy if we can do that.
That would be good. Now, how many people voted for the Vryheidsfront in the last election?
It's about 416,000 people who voted for us.
So a lot more people than you could fit in FNB Stadium. So that's a good number.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah,
you could fill it 4 or 5 times over with that number. That's very impressive indeed.
So why it was very interesting for me, the Roman riding, is because it's a lot like politics. Right, there are a lot of things you have to consider all at the same time, and so that skill stood out for me. And watching over the past couple of years, from the last national election and then all the by-elections, in the local government elections, you are growing. Where do you think that support is coming from, and why?
Okay, as you said, yes. If you look at local government, to give you a little bit of numbers, we only had, before the 21 election, we had 69 councillors in the country. We actually raised that to 238. Now, what is interesting is that I think people start realizing that they can vote actually for any other party or the party they wish to vote for, and their vote still counts. We must remember, over the years, we always heard this propaganda of don't waste your vote on a smaller party.
Mostly from the DA.
Mercenary small parties.
Well, you're quite correct.
The DA, in fact, Songezo Zibi's got an issue with them at the moment, which maybe we'll have time for a bit later on. But they do. They go around telling people, don't waste your vote on the smaller parties. Consolidate your vote with us.
Exactly. And that was quite effective. And that's why people did not vote for us before that. But after the 2019 elections, people realized, wow, I can vote for the party I wish to vote for, and my vote still counts. And if you allow me, I think it is important that the people understand, because many people ask me, but what is my vote worth? Does it make a difference? And what I then say is, to understand what your vote is worth, you must understand our electoral system. And we have the proportional, coming back to provincial, national votes. The electoral system, I say, is actually the formula, the system that is converting votes in an election, converting it into 400 seats in the National Assembly. And in simple terms, it actually means if you get 10% of the votes, you get 10% of the 400 votes. Now, seats, I mean. So if you want to understand the worth of your vote, I make it very simple and say, let's say 10 people voted in the election. 5 people voted for the ANC, and there are 5 opposition parties who received 1 vote each. Then the electoral system comes, and it said, right, ANC, you've got 5 out of 10. That's 50%. So you get 50% of the 400 seats, it's 200. Opposition parties, 1 to 5. You each received 1 vote, it is 10%. So you each get 10%, it's 40 votes. But now, if you decided you're not going to vote because what's my vote worth? And say, for instance, the person would have voted for party number 5. What happens now? Now the ANC gets 5 out of 9. And 5 out of 9 is 55%. And that is the worth of your vote. So if you stay away, you make then you give them a simple majority. And they didn't receive 1 extra vote. So it's also the other way around. Sorry. So if they get 4 out of say all the opposition parties that receive their votes, and one of them of the ANC stays away, then they get 4 out of 9. That's 44%. So that is how the electoral system works.
It works in both directions. Yeah.
But I hear a lot of people saying too, and it's a fair comment, that if the people who are staying at home would have been ANC voters, that doesn't help the ANC either.
Yeah, that's exactly the point that he's making about the 4 out of 9 for the ANC.
I mean, this is what Kuleko Hlengwa from the IFP was saying last week. You know, is that if people do stay at home, normally it favors the opposition.
And
of course, that's true.
I'm quite interested to know that more than the fact that their vote counts so much more when they vote for you, what do you think they're resonating with in your message that makes them come to you to begin with?
I think in our message, what is actually attracting people is that specifically in this election, you will note that, for instance, our slogan is, let's repair and rebuild South Africa. That's our slogan for this election. And what we decided on is to say, look, if we want to criticize all the time and telling all about the bad things in South Africa, we can talk the whole day. And we said, and I've actually used the example when we had our launch of our manifesto to say, we are all inhabitants of a house, in a household, and I call it the South African house. So in this South Africa house, we have, unfortunately, inhabitants that is actually trying to break down the house, throwing stones through the windows, removing the water pipes and all that sort of things. And then you can make a decision. You can say, listen, I'm not going to stay in this house anymore. You can leave. Or else you can sit in this house and you're not going to do anything. Now, the Freedom Front Plus says, no, we are in this house. We're not going to sit and do nothing. We are not going out of and leave the house. We are going to ensure that we get rid of those vandalizing the house. And that's why we say, let's start repair and rebuild South Africa. So we want to give a positive message to the people. We must give people hope. People are really in despair in certain instances. So we're coming forward, and then we put forward our policies. And of course, we can talk about that. And we believe that our policies will create a better future for all in South Africa. All of us want actually to live in a country where there is prosperity, where there is peace, and where you are safe. And we do believe that putting forward our policies, we can create that. But
all right. So no, I think that's a very good place to start, and I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that stuff. But let's be fair, Dr. Mulder, they're going to be Dr. Groenewald, that there are going to be people who say the Freedom Front Plus is only, this is what they say, right? That you're only Afrikaans, that you're only white, that you're the only right-wing party, which may be true, it may be a compliment or it may be an insult, who knows, but that you're only party that's right of center. Most of the other parties would identify as liberal, right? So they would be left of center, even the ones that are moderately left of center. So how do you manage, and this goes back to Phumi's question, to attract people from other places? Because otherwise you've already reached a ceiling. All you can really do is cannibalize off some of the other opposition parties.
Which they are. I mean, you are attracting people from DA in some instances, just looking at the local elections. You've attracted quite a number of people away from the DA into your party. What is it that you think is attracting them? Why are they voting for you and not the DA?
We all know that the politics is always about perceptions.
Yeah.
And Gareth has mentioned it to say that they see us as a right-wing party. Now, let me just correct that. People think that, yes, we are only white. We are a far-right party. And we actually started to position us and to show to people that we are not far-right. We are center conservative party. When I say a center conservative party, I mean we're in the center with conservative values. Values like integrity, honesty, hardworking, and respect.
Family.
All those sort of...
Religion, maybe.
Religion. I mean, our first founding principle is that we say we recognize and we build on the Holy Trinity. That's one of our first founding principle. And what I find is that people all over South Africa, they say to us, they like what we are saying, and even political analysts actually repositioned the Freedom Front Plus as center conservative. So first that. Coming back to your question, and I think that's exactly what happened in 2019, and I've mentioned it now, just now, that people realized that they can vote for other opposition party and their vote still counts. Many people came to us and say, listen, I like your principles, I like your policies, but we must now first vote for the strongest opposition party to get rid of the ANC. Now, they now realize that there's no one single party, specifically an opposition party, who will be able to win the ANC. And therefore, now they can vote for an opposition party, and also understanding the electoral system, which I've mentioned, to say, and that's what we say to people. And I think with our manifesto, I don't want to give all the names, but I mean, there were political analysts, well known in South Africa. They said they were quite surprised with how our manifesto launched. They didn't expect it. So many black people at our manifesto. And for the first time, they realized that we are not this exclusive white political party. In 2019, we actually had Mr. Pieter Groenewald. He's a brown person. He's our representative in the Western Cape's legislature. We have, after the 21 local government election, we have many councillors from other races, for instance, from brown people. We even have a black councillor in Bella Bella. So people are coming, and if I ask them, well, firstly, we say that we believe in merit. They know if they come to the Freedom Front Plus, for instance, if you compile the list and everything, everybody goes through the same process of writing an exam, delivering speech and getting marks for that, and it's on merit. It is not like women. We have two young women in 2019 elected. They're still there. They're still high on the list. We didn't put people in positions because they are women. I think it's an insult to put a woman in a position just because she's a woman.
Yeah.
We believe in merit. And people come to us and say to us, we like that approach. And then, of course, our policies, I also realize that we are here to stay in South Africa. I've just mentioned about the house. We are not going to leave. And it's quite surprising. I didn't realize it really. But many people, black people, came to me and you said, well, we now know that you will not leave South Africa. You are here to repair and rebuild. Coming to the DA voters in 2019, it's difficult to say how many voted for us. Yes, that is true. Quite a lot of them came over. They actually always wanted to support us. But as I've mentioned, but also what happened, I went in the campaign to many organizations, people who didn't vote it before. And I'm referring now to 2019, it's the same now. And I've explained how the electoral system works. And then they realized to say, yes, but we must vote. It is important. And just to give you one statistics, and that is for at the moment, the ANC's got a 58% majority in the National Assembly, but they only received 27% support of eligible voters. So I always say to the ANC, they say that we are representing the majority of the people in South Africa. I say, no, you only represent 27% of the eligible voters. And that's why we also, and I put emphasis on that.
Which is only about 11 million people, if you consider what that really means in terms of the number of people we have in South Africa.
You're quite right.
That it's only about 11 million people who voted for the ANC in 2019.
Exactly. You're quite right. I mean, at this moment, the latest statistics said that 27.7 million people registered to vote.
Yeah.
So we are encouraging people. And the Freedom Front, wherever I come and with my campaign and everything, I put emphasis on the people, how important it is to vote. And I think that made the difference of answering your question.
Well, one of the things that everybody's talking about going into this election, and you talk about the 27 million people now registered to vote, is that this is also the first time that we have so many young people registered to vote. I mean, the median age in South Africa is 27. So what does that mean for you, and how attractive do you believe your value system, the center-right Christian organization, how attractive is that to young people?
But before you answer, I just want to throw something in on this, because I kind of I'm on the same line of questioning here as Phumi is. Also, South Africans are, by virtue of the way that they live and behave, mostly a conservative lot. So we shouldn't be afraid of this word conservative, because it's probably in everybody's tradition, culture, home, family, the way they raise their children. Most South Africans are God-fearing people, and so on. So actually, by virtue of that alone, parties like you, the ACDP, should be doing a whole lot better, actually.
Well, when we had Tate Mishwe here, that's what we spoke about.
Yeah.
I mean, at the last census, about 80% of the people identify as Christian.
Right. And also, Dr. Groenewald, I mean, why is there a fear of being right of center? I mean, even the word right, I know that it's become poisonous in America, but right of center means conservative anyway, traditionally, and conservative means conserving things. Chesterton's don't break the fence unless you know why it was put up. So these things kind of marry into what looks like could be a very rosy future for the Freedom Front.
We believe so. And I mean, you've mentioned all the reasons for that. But I think the main drawback for the Freedom Front Plus was the perceptions. And I mean, opportunities like, for instance, this, we are putting forward our message and people are understanding the Freedom Front Plus and the policy much better.
Do you think you get unfair media coverage, by the way?
Do I think?
Do you think that the media are mostly dismissive and not that interested in the Freedom Front?
I think there's a change. I think if you go back, because we actually were established on the 4th of March, 1994. And coming from the past, coming over to the new dispensation, people still tend to say, oh, where are you coming from? But we've changed our constitution in 2012 to make it very clear that we, for instance, in our policy and our mission, we say all communities in South Africa. And we put very strong forward. We use the word self-determination, but people had a misconception of what that means. But what it actually means is that we believe in the decentralizing of power.
Now, that's such an interesting thing. That's what I said to Mkulego last week. That would be like, if I were a single issue voter, it would be that. It would be the fact that government affects most of us locally long before it affects us nationally. National government has very little to do with all of us. We maybe interact with it once or twice a year if we're unlucky. But local government really matters to us. The water, electricity, the roads, the rubbish being picked up and cleaned up, the street lights working, the potholes, that kind of thing really affects people. Sewage systems, right. So if that's what you guys are doing, and if that's what the IFP are doing, so far, those are the two things that have grabbed my attention the most in all the campaigning so far.
You're quite right, Gareth, because, and the reason we say that, let's take the municipalities. Although this is a provincial national election, we say it will have an effect on the local government level as well. What the ANC did is they centralized a lot of municipalities in one larger municipality, which we said is just the wrong way around. If you really want some good service delivery, you must decentralize, you must have smaller municipalities. Before 94, I was a mayor of my hometown where I live is Stilfontein. And I always use the example, a simple example. If I go to a shop getting some milk or something, and then they see me and said, well, are you aware of a water pipe burst we had at a certain street? And I said, no. Those times, then I go home, I can phone my municipal manager, and the next morning it's fixed. You immediately know about the smaller the municipalities are, you're more in contact with the community, and you can really have better service delivery. And that's what we mean by self-determination. The community comes forward, and they actually governing themselves. And we say that is the solution. If you go, for instance, you go and look at Switzerland. Switzerland have more than 3,000 municipalities. It's a small country. 3,000 municipalities. We have 250.
Each street.
But that makes it much.
Every 3 people, isn't it?
Well, actually, but it's very effective. So I think people start understanding that concept of self-determination, and that actually means more power to the people and the community.
Do you guys control any municipalities directly, or are you in coalition in all of them?
We're only in coalition, specifically Tshwane, but there is no municipality we are controlling by ourselves.
Okay. Because there's some comments here just quickly from some people who say, the Freedom Front, here, Azalea Nivenais says, the Freedom Front Plus gets shit done on a municipal level. They're great allies and their members are very forthright. Just my experience. That's her experience. Congo Christoffel says, Freedom Front Plus is going to get a bit of a foothold in the Western Cape this election. They seem to be the only other reputable party who can provide a check and balance to the DA province.
Interesting.
Any comments on those things?
Okay, let me first say, when it comes to the Western Cape, we don't want the ANC or any of the EFF or any other party to be the government after the election. But what we say is, we don't want the DA to be the only party to govern the Western Cape. We want to force them to go into a coalition with the Freedom Front Plus. And then we will ensure even better services and better government in the Western Cape. I always say, everybody knows it, that yes, the DA is a better government in the Western Cape than all the other provinces. But then I say, you must be a very, very bad government if you are not better than the ANC. But that's the size. But we do believe that we can make a big difference if they are in coalition with the Freedom Front.
You were sitting right next to Gated when he said John Steenhuisen gaan answer Malton about that. Right?
And listen, I believe you gave the president a tongue lashing the other day. Right, Phumi?
Yeah, we saw that. Well, look, the DA is having a bit of a conniption about all of these parties and what they believe they can bring to governance, not just in that province, but everywhere. So this is a good time, I think, to ask about the MPC, the multi-party coalition, because you were among the first that signed up to the coalition with the DA. And now they're saying they're happy to go into a coalition with the ANC. How does that make you feel?
That's no surprise to me, in this sense that when we started with the multi-party charter, the MPC, we came to an agreement, but we must understand the agreement. And that is, for instance, that we are not in a coalition at the moment. Coalitions are only formed after an election. But now people ask, but why do you have the MPC then? The reason is that our constitution in the country determines that within 14 days after the official results of the election has been announced, you must form a government. You must elect a president. So we said to each other, it's impossible to have a coalition forming in 14 days. We will have to start before the time. And that's why we, and specifically the Freedom Front Plus, joined in this process. We had many meetings before the time, and only the leaders came together. And we decided and said, yes, we will have to take hands. And I always say the Freedom Front Plus will take hands and we will work together, but we will not become part of one single opposition party or any party. So we will work together, but we will not merge with other political parties. And the first clause, actually our first paragraph in the agreement is that we recognize the independence of each and every member of the MPC, and you can put forward your policies. Now, coming to your question in terms of the DA, I do believe that if we as opposition parties, if we do get a majority as opposition, we will form a coalition and the DA will be part of that. I do believe that. But what the DA said is that if we do not get a coalition government, then they will be willing to form a coalition with the ANC. I am on record where I said that the Freedom Front Plus will not go in any form of coalition with the ANC or the EFF for that matter. But that is the choice of the DA. And I mean,
they've said they're open to that.
Yes, exactly. And they have their own arguments. But I do believe that, and I said it already, that if we can get a majority as coalition opposition, they will be part of that. And we must also remember there are parties who are not members of the MPC at the moment that actually said already to us in confidence that they will join us after the election, depending on the results.
Hey, Dr. Groenewald, it seems to me like people forget that after the election, there's going to be a lot of pragmatism suddenly. People are going to discover that they got to do what they've got to do to cobble a government together. And, there'll be horse trading about this portfolio or that one. It seems almost silly to make an arrangement before the fact.
Yeah, I'm wondering is this the DA not negotiating in bad faith, where they are saying in the MPC, we must come together so that we can keep the ANC low, so that we can keep the ANC in check. And then outside of those MPC meetings say, actually, we're happy to go with the ANC if it means that that's not negotiating in good faith, is it?
No, we must say to each other that we must have change in South Africa. We have no option or choice, actually, when we talk about that. But then I still say, if you respect the independence of each and every political party, you have to deal with that matter of what they are saying, but you must deal it in such a way, in a responsible way, to say what is in the best interest of South Africa in the end. And what I always say to people, and I think Gareth touched on it, to say, but okay, after the election, it's horse trading. What positions are you getting? It's not all about that, because there are some negativity towards coalitions. And I always say that we must understand that we are all going through a learning curve. Then I say the voters and the political party, and the political party leaders, we are all going through a learning curve when it comes to coalitions. In fact, the Freedom Front Plus actually said since the 90s that we are going to end up with coalition governments, because that is one of the strongest features of a proportional electoral system.
That's where we
all
started.
over the world. Now we're at that moment. And what we say, and I think say to people, yes, we've learned lessons, but we must also remember the positive of a coalition government is that you get a better government for the people. And let me explain that. If you have an issue and you have parties who have different views on a specific issue, then in the end, the only way you can get consensus is to say, okay, it's not what is in the best interest of your political party. The question is, what is in the best interest of the people of South Africa?
That's it.
And that becomes the focus point. What is in the best interest of the people? And I always say, if you're rational, and I do believe that we have responsible political leaders, then we will find each other, even although our political parties differ on certain issues. What is in the best interest of people? And that, I say, is one of the features which is a very positive feature of coalition government. I mean, I visited Germany last year, 10, 12 days, learning about coalitions. They are the champions. They are actually in a coalition government after World War II. People don't always realize that.
They've been in coalitions ever since.
Yeah, exactly. So what we say is that there are positive matters. Another interesting angle on a coalition government for South Africa is what people don't think about, because I do get these questions from people, but if the ANC loses, we're going to have turmoil in South Africa, going to be an uprising and all that sort of things. Now, the fact of a coalition government, the transition from a one-party dominance in politics, going over in different political parties into a new government, is actually a very good thing in this sense that people won't be able to say, are you replacing this ANC government with one single other party, and we don't like this party. Now it is a coalition of different political parties, and quite a lot of the supporters of the ANC.
We started as a government of national unity.
Right.
So when we started, hence the proportional representation. But I don't want us to talk a lot about the ANC and what they mean or don't mean. I do want to hear more about your main three priorities going into this election.
Right. Our three main priorities. Firstly, we say that the real enemy of South Africa is unemployment. Therefore, our main priority is to ensure that we grow the economy. But there are different ways doing that. For instance, we believe in the free market principles. We believe, for instance, the right to own private property. If you look at the expropriation bill now, it's a problem. We also say that we have to address certain issues if we want the economy to grow. For instance, the electricity. And to give one difference, the Freedom Front Plus is putting on the table is we say that the theft of electricity must be criminalized. We must remember an illegal connection is criminal, but if you've used a lot of electricity, there's no legislation that criminalizes that. So we're putting that on the table. And then another, unique issue we're putting on the table. We also said that we must look at the financial management of government, because we must attract potential investors in South Africa, even potential, business people in South Africa who wants to expand their businesses. It's not only about foreign investment. And what do those people do? They look, how does the government manage its finances? Because if it is in a responsible way, they know that taxes are not going to rise and all that sort of thing. So the Freedom Front Plus comes forward and we say there should be a fiscal commission. Now, this fiscal commission must be an independent commission, and we can actually compare it to the Reserve Bank, the policymaking who decides what is the interest rate in South Africa. Now, we say our unique proposal is that this fiscal commission must determine the VAT rate in South Africa. So they must determine a specific, amount, say, this is what the government should have.
You would maybe mess with the percentage that we pay in VAT now? You would maybe change that?
Well, let me explain the commission, then I'll answer that one.
All right.
But say, for instance, if the government is not responsible when it comes to their debt, then they can raise the VAT rate. At the moment, South Africa's state government debt is 5.5 trillion rand. The service fee annually is 382 billion. So we say that's irresponsible, so they can raise the VAT. But if they are a good government, then they can lower the VAT rate. We won't raise the VAT now because, it's difficult times for people. But that commission, if they are there, that actually is a barometer for what the government is doing with your tax money.
Yeah, I mean, I love this for me for obvious reasons. I mean, you never hear of tax coming down in times of prosperity, but it should.
It should. And that's why we also say that part of that is to lower taxes for people, individuals, as well as for companies.
And Pieter, what about business, stimulating small business and international investment? How do you do that as a government? Because in my understanding, government needs to get out of the way. The less they do, the better. The less they interfere. No red tape, no complex labor legislation. Is that what you're going to do?
Exactly.
Oh, really?
It's part of our manifesto. For instance, we say that the powers of the unions must be curbed in. Yeah. They have too much power. For instance, they must take responsibility if there's an illegal strike, for instance. And if there are damages, even if it's a legal march or whatever the case be, they must be responsible for the damages. So we must
financially responsible.
Yeah, financially.
Yes, good.
Yes, financially.
Yeah, good.
So they must take that responsibility. So you must curb in that. And it's true. The problem with the government is that they think they are an employment, agency. A government cannot create jobs. It is the private sector. And what the government must do, and they don't understand it, we say that if you're the government, you must make and ensure there are circumstances conducive for people to invest. And you even mentioned local businesses, small businesses, that they can expand their activities so that people can have jobs. I always say, if you don't have a job, it actually touches on your pride. Everybody wants to be proud on what I can see to my family or my loved ones or whatever the case may be. But if you don't have a job, what do you do? And that's a huge problem.
Yeah, we talk about human dignity, but without being able to provide for the ones you care about, you don't have the ability to pass on human dignity either, or to have your own.
Yeah, of course. Well, and with that, of course, then we bring in safety, crime in South Africa, corruption, of course, is also quite a priority. And if I talk about crime in South Africa, the criminal justice system is failing the people of South Africa. I mean, and the criminal justice, if I refer to that, I talk about the police, I talk about our courts. I talk about the correctional services. Now, Thabo best showed us what is the situation with our correctional services, but there is too much corruption when we talk about these agencies. I always say that I salute the hardworking police men and women, but there are too many bad apples.
Okay, so let's just dwell on that for a second, because I think a lot of people are interested in the fact there was somebody in the comments earlier who rightly said, you're on the portfolio committee for police. What have you been able to do on that committee so far as a demonstration of what you might be able to do if you had more power as the Freedom Front or as an individual MP? And also, what do you think the biggest problems that the police are facing are? You've already mentioned corruption, and you said there are good cops. And I feel the same way. There are obviously good, honest men and women who are trying to help and trying to do their job right. But there are also a lot of bad apples. Besides that, what can we do in the short term to make policing in this country better and more effective?
Well, firstly, we will have to reorganize the top management of police. There are people there which I don't think is really competent for the job. And then we must also then go and look when it comes to the psychology tests, psychometric tests for people to join the police services. They just get people in. If you want to be a law, enforcer, you must have a specific personality. People are misusing it at the moment. And part of the problem is also the training, in this sense, that they lowered the standards, which is not acceptable. And I think if you just take those 3 steps, the first thing, for instance, what should be done is there should be a lifestyle audit on all senior management in the police. And then we can say, well, there must be an audit on the qualifications. Part of the problem is, unfortunately, I asked what we do in the portfolio committee. For years, I've complained in the police portfolio committee and to the government to say, and it started actually in 1999 when Thabo Mbeki became the president. He appointed Jackie Selebi as a police commissioner. Now, the fact is that Jackie Selebi was a diplomat. After him came Bheki Cele. He was a politician. After him became Ria Pehega. She was a social worker. I said many times, all these years, you cannot have a commissioner of police who are not a experienced policeman or woman. Yes, the minister is a political appointment, but that actually was the cause why we ended up in the police services with people in the services who is really not competent. And of course, if I go to the police in itself, we do believe in specialized units, not only, for instance, in cash transit crime or anything like that. We also believe that there should be a specialized unit for murder and robbery, also for rural areas, which include, of course, farm murders, but the whole rural community. Because we say that if you have those specialized units, it must also be prosecuted-driven investigations. We must go back to the scorpions. And what's the benefit of that? Specifically, when we talk about a prosecuting-driven investigation, that means you actually take a prosecutor with a investigator. They work together, and it is on highly, can I say, sophisticated international and organized crime, so that when they go to court and the docket is there, the same prosecutor knows exactly what's going on in that docket, and then they are successful. You know, last week we received some statistics from the Institute for Security Studies, and in their research, they've found that 90% of offenders when it comes to violent crime does not even go to court. 90%. Only 10%. That was really, can I say, an eye-opener to get those statistics for the first time. And that's part of the problem. We live in South Africa with the problem of impunity. And we will have to change that.
Well, you know, just in the past 45 minutes of this conversation, it's quite clear that you have a very pragmatic approach, not just to politics and being in parliament, but also to the kinds of policies that we need to be putting in place. I keep saying it's a grown-up in the room. And I want to bring you back to my question about young people.
Yeah.
Do you believe that your message, that your attitude, that your views can attract young people to go to the ballot and vote for you?
Yes, sorry, I've missed that one. That's true. Yes, for instance, we have a national structure for the youth. We get a lot of young people joining. Our constitution determines if you are 16 years, South African citizens, 16 years and older, and you prescribe to our policies, you can become a member. We have people, children, 16 years and older, and 16 that join the Freedom Front Plus. If you go and look, for instance, and just come to the youth and the young people, in 2019, 70% of our members in Parliament were below 40 years old. The youngest is a woman. She was at that time, she was 29 years old. So we attract them. What we find in our statistics, I must say that the majority of the people is actually between, say, 29 and 41. That is quite interesting. And I do believe it is because, and I'm coming back to specific young people like at universities, students. Well, I was a student. When I was a student, I was not really interested in politics. There are much more important things to think about. But I think the circumstances in South Africa is of such nature that our young people are now more interested in politics, in this sense that they know it's hard to get a job when they've completed their university, they got a degree. Where am I going to get a job? And therefore, they are now more interested in politics. And we find that. For instance, if you go and look at our councillors, it is young people coming in. And the reason I think we have this, and I see it as, say, 40 years and 29, it's young couples. They have small children, most of them, and they ask themselves, well, what is the future? They say to me, well, you will be surprised. You get young couples, not one or two or three, quite a lot of them come to me and say, Pieter, do you think we can have children? And it's sometimes a bit a difficult question to answer, so while you decide whether you want to.
Are you doing it right?
But what they mean actually,
there's one way to get
do we still have a future in South Africa? And I said, you will always have a future. It doesn't matter where you are. So if you want children, yes. And I think people are getting, and that's why young people are starting to look more at the Freedom Front Plus. Like you've mentioned, some other even adults and other people, they now start realizing what the Freedom Front Plus really stands for. And they like our policy, specifically when it comes to merit. We openly say that we don't believe in black economic empowerment. We don't believe in affirmative action because it really didn't benefit the masses. But that's a subject on its own. And the young, you go to students and ask them about affirmative action. The first thing they say, we don't like it. If I get a position, I want to be in that position because of merit. And we put emphasis on merit. And we also put emphasis to say that there must be skills transfer, not economic transfer. There must be skills transfer to build South Africa. And that is what we find, that the young people, the young couples, if you can put it in that way, that attracts them to the Freedom Front Plus.
Okay, so there are a couple of people in the comments here. I don't know if they've just got it in for you or not, but we're going to go with this anyway, because sometimes someone wants to know, what do you earn as an MP? And you talk about lifestyle audits. If someone did a lifestyle audit on you, would they discover anything as an MP? Like, do you have like some lucrative business on the side or something? Because people often, with Gate and McKenzie, they said the same thing. Like, where is he earning his money? You're just an MP.
Yes, I'm just an MP. I mean, what we earn is not a secret. It is publicized in a government gazette. But we must also say that is the total package, also including in terms of your pension. And for instance, political party leaders, we get a little bit more. And it's not a secret. We get about 1.3 million rand annually. That is what is publicized. But then we don't receive a vehicle. I don't have bodyguards. People always ask, but where are your bodyguards? I don't have bodyguards. I have
my mayor has 10.
The mayor of Joburg.
Did you not see this?
Has 10 bodyguards? For me, you're joking.
I joke not.
Wow.
10 bodyguards for the tech mayor of Joburg.
10 bodyguards and 5 vehicles.
It sounds if they are bodyguards for bodyguards, but okay.
A lot of people who want to kill him, maybe.
Well, that's a possibility. But what I say is that is our remuneration. Yes, we live. I live in Acacia Park in Cape Town. It was actually an old military base.
Oh, wow.
And I've lived in an asbestos house for more than 10 years as a member of parliament down there. We pay, it's not a huge amount. It's about 300, 400 rand a month to stay there. But we must also understand, and that is that you actually have to have 2 vehicles, because my hometown is Stilfontein. My head office is in Pretoria, so I must have a vehicle to travel. Yeah, and it's my own, my private. I have to buy it myself. But you must also have one in Cape Town. So you actually have that, can I say, double expenses as a ordinary member of parliament.
And you still have constituency work.
Well, of course, that's part of course, I have the constituency works. And I think people are sometimes get confused with ministers. They have a different story. They got a lot of perks. We don't have that as ordinary members of parliament. So that is what we are earning. And when we talk about lifestyle audits, of course, I'm a private individual. I do have shares in some companies or anything, but it's my private money, like any other.
You invested your money. Right?
Invest my money and everything like that.
Okay.
It is just normal.
All right. Well, I mean, we've hopefully we've dealt with that because there was someone who had a question about that. All right. Let's just talk about farms for a second here, because you guys seem to be the ones who have your finger on the pulse here. You pay the most attention to the situation on farms in this country. We talk a lot about food security. We do talk about farm murders, even though I think a lot of people avoid talking about it because they think it's a very particular type of crime that only affects white people and the rest of us shouldn't care about it, which is ridiculous. But what do you feel is going on in rural South Africa? And I bring this up because we had the IFP in here the other day. We've had MK and the ANC talking about rural KwaZulu-Natal in particular. Do you have any thoughts about what's happening in rural South Africa?
Yes. Well, firstly, you've mentioned the farmers. We must understand that the agricultural sector is a vital segment because they must ensure that we have food security in South Africa. So that's the importance of that. When it comes to rural areas, we are in a process of urbanization in South Africa. They say that by 2030, about 75% of people of South Africa will be urbanized. So that actually puts the rural areas in a vulnerable position. For instance, if we look at crime, yes, I know we talk quite a lot of farm murders, but I also want to say it's not only white farmers, it's black farmers as well. People will be surprised to see when we talk about farm murders, the cruelty also done to black farmers and his family.
And farm workers.
Yeah, and the farm workers as such. So we say that we must have specialized units, I mentioned it just now, to look at the crime in the rural areas. There is a rural crime strategy from the police. They created it in 2011, 2012. They dusted it off a little bit in 2018, telling us, got this new strategy. It's not a new strategy. It's a good strategy, but they don't implement it. Just to give you one example, in the strategy, they talk about drones, giving to the farmers and the rural areas, but we don't even see them because they don't do it. Now, what is happening, we encourage people to become part of a community safety network, and it works very well. And when I say, specifically if you look at your farm systems and the safety systems around that, it's not only for the farm. It is for the small towns as well. We had situations, I can give many examples, where, for instance, it was those systems that captured criminals, and part of those criminals were police members. And they handed one with a high rank of a major, and they handed it them over. Or actually a colonel, it's not major, but the colonel. And so they are very effective. And you get the situation in rural areas now. That's people, specifically when you go to the old traditional areas, that they want to make more contact with these rural safety systems. Because people must understand, and I always say to them, and you refer to white people, I'm not afraid to talk about black and white. There are more crime in black areas than in white areas. That's a fact.
Sure.
And I mean, you talk to some people, for instance, they say, well, you know, if I went to get some groceries, I must be very careful because when I get off the taxi, they're robbing you of your groceries. It's really a bad situation. Therefore, we say we must also look at there should be more police available for your rural areas. And it is quite logic because it's a big area that has been to be covered. If you look at vehicles, for instance, you should ensure that the ratio in terms of the area, the size of the area, and the vehicles needed must be considered. Where if you have a dense population, you don't have that large area. So simple terms, you can have 5 vehicles and you can cover the whole area in an urban area. But 5 vehicles in a rural area won't work.
Yeah.
So these are practical matters.
Resource and sure.
Yeah, and then of course we also say if you go to the farmers specifically, they should be protected against tariffs, especially import tariffs. Our farmers in South Africa is really not receiving the support from government they should be. Let's take the expropriation without compensation now. It is a threat. Quite a lot of our farmers are asking me now, well, are we going to lose our farms? But what people don't realize, it's not only about farms. When we talk about expropriation without compensation, it's anyone who owns property, even your house in an urban area. But that is that one. So we say that they should, and it's not that they should receive special treatment, but it must be competitive.
But I mean, if we look at in France, just a couple of weeks ago, the farmers in France and their complaint because their subsidies were being cut. I mean, if you consider in America, the subsidies that farmers get, and then we have an AGOA sending chickens to South Africa. And now South African farmers have to compete with farmers who get subsidies as well as an extra market.
That's exactly the problem. And that's why we say that they need more protection. And then you must also understand that those imports, we're going to talk to the chicken farmers and all those people. They say that it's not the same standards. The quality is not the same. But that's exactly what it is. And we are very worried about AGOA because it's a farming community. It's the agricultural sector that's going to be affected the most if they change it. Because especially when it comes to export and the tariffs and everything like that. So we are very worried about that. And we hope that they don't change it.
Pieter, what about the other big issue that everyone's talking about in South Africa at the moment? And Gayton's made a meal of it too. And we hear Herman Mashaba going off about illegal immigration and the fact that, there are lots of people from Zimbabwe here and Malawi and Mozambique. And how did the Freedom Front feel about all of that? What's your position on things like illegal immigration and immigration generally?
Well, if it's legal immigration, it's no problem.
Okay.
But we are against illegal immigrants. And we say that there should be much stricter border control in South Africa. And we say that the reason is quite obvious. You can't have people coming into South Africa, taking the jobs of other people, putting quite a lot of pressure on your resources, health services, even your water resources and everything like that. We believe there's an international standard when we talk about immigration, in this sense that each and every country do need some specialized people to come and immigrate to their countries so that we can build the economy. It's quite a huge problem, our educational system, because we are losing skilled people. And by the way, can I just mention 2 years ago already, Statistics South Africa found that more black professionals are leaving South Africa than white professionals. So we get a skills shortage. And therefore, we must have and allow immigration. But we cannot allow people to just come into South Africa. People telling me that at Eswatini, when it is the end of the month, people are just going over the border. They get even SASA on certain social grounds, and then they're back in Eswatini. That's totally unacceptable. So we say that we must ensure that we have proper border control.
Let that king pay for them. That king of theirs, that King Mswati III. Let him pay for it. I don't know why we have to pay for the people of Swaziland as well. All right. So one of the other things that you brought up here is skills and the labor force. How are we going to attract people to South Africa, not just international investment, because investors will go wherever there's a buck to be made. But we need skills. How do we retain talented young black and white people in this country? Because I don't think a lot of your voters are probably thinking maybe they should look at overseas as an option. That maybe they voted for you before in other elections. Maybe they've already left. But certainly a lot of young Afrikaans people I speak to, men and women, saying they don't see a future for themselves here.
Listen, even if they are overseas, they can vote.
Yes, of course. But there's a small number who do. right? And it's not even one seat in parliament if you put all of them together.
And actually, yesterday there was a big win for expats voting, because now you don't have to vote only at the embassy. I think you can also vote. Yeah, anyway.
On that one, I can say those expats must thank the Freedom Front Plus, because we went to the Constitutional Court in 2009 to the 2009 election. We wanted the Constitutional Court to ensure that expats can also, if they're still South Africans, that's what the expats, South African citizens can vote. So we started. But coming back to your question, what I found when I talk to people like that, the main issue is that they say, do away with affirmative action. It sounds very, can I say, what people do really understand from that, because they say, well, we are going out, we're not sure we're going to get a job. Well, we don't get a job. And I once had a black engineer on the plane. We had a talk. He was leaving the country. And I asked him why. He worked at Eskom, as I said. He said, well, I'm the engineer. I have to take the responsibility. I have to sign documents where I say I take the responsibility for a specific job. But my manager, he is not an engineer. He is in that position because of affirmative action. And I can't bear it anymore. I'm leaving South Africa. And I put it as a real example. And that's why I say, you're asking me, what are we going to do to make it attractive for people to stay in South Africa? We have wonderful people, black, brown, Indian, white, doesn't matter, who do have the talent to build South Africa. And I say that if we go for merit, if we say we want the best people to do and who are capable of doing a job, then we can be able to build South Africa. And if they get that message, they will stay in South Africa. Well, they will then get a job knowing that I earned it. And I think further, if you go to that, is to say that we must look at our educational system. Statistics shows that 80% of young people leaving school are not prepared for the open labor market because of the standards in our educational system. The other day, I've listened to a conversation about the economic situation in Zimbabwe. And the question was, why is it the economy so bad and poor in Zimbabwe? And it was said because of the educational system that actually deteriorated, where they don't have skilled people anymore.
Skills as opposed to degrees.
Well, not only degrees. I mean, even if you go to technicons, artisans, those people, they just left.
I've just seen the time. I didn't realize that we'd gone like 11 minutes over. We've enjoyed talking to you so much that we've kind of gone past. Phumi, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Surviving there? All right. Well, I'm afraid we're going to have to call this to an end, but I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. Is there any last thing you want to throw in here, Phums, before I wrap it up?
I think this is a really magnificent conversation that gives light into some of those, some of the lesser known parts of your manifesto. I mean, I did get a copy of it and I did get to read it. I got an English version and I did get to read it kind of last night. But I think you don't get enough time to tell people, and the opportunity really lies in creating those moments for people to get to understand a little bit more and scratch past the surface with you.
I agree. Thank you. I also enjoyed the conversation. And it's true, that's our, can I say, responsibility to get the message out there.
Yeah, well, you're doing it today.
It's not simple. And that's why I want to say, and I said I started, and I appreciate the opportunity, because it's an opportunity which we can portray our message. Unfortunately, we must say that elections are very expensive. And the Freedom Front Plus, you will see when the Electoral Commission publicizes the donations.
I actually haven't seen you on that list.
Exactly. You know why?
Why?
because in terms of legislation, only if you receive more than 100,000 rand, then it must be, well, you give of all the donors, but then it is publicized by the Electoral Commission. So we don't receive real donations more than 100,000 rand from donors.
That's phenomenal. And other parties are getting handouts from NGOs globally, from local rich people, from...
Well, they get millions. And I can also say all our elections since 1994, we did not have debt after the election. We did everything.
You run a clean ship.
We're running a clean ship. And we're still doing that. So it takes time. I always say to my people, how do you eat the elephant? You eat it piece by piece.
One bite
at a time.
Yeah, but I think what is important, and that is what I want to say from my side. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity.
Sure.
But we must always have hope in South Africa. And as a Christian, I always say, what's the difference between a Christian and other faiths? A Christian always have hope, because I do believe if we put our trust in our Heavenly Father, we will survive South Africa. We will be able to rebuild South Africa and repair it so that we can have a prosperous, a peaceful future for our people where they can also be safe.
All right,
Hallelujah.
well, listen, Statke, good luck with the election. I've said this to every party that's been here, and I wish you luck. I think
Is there an Afrikaans word for hallelujah?
Yeah,
Hallelujah.
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 Is across the
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Baie dankie van my kant af. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you
was
so much.
good. Thank you.
All right, everybody, that's the Burning Platform today, and you also get an extra 15 minutes. Who knew that? I hope you have an excellent Thursday. We will see you on tomorrow's
It's to make
show.
up for your grumpy 15 minutes at the front.
Stop it. I'm allowed to be grumpy from time to time. Let me be grumpy when I can. All right, thanks, everybody. See you tomorrow.
I forgot to bring a comb, guys.
Ah,
But you know what I do have?
What?
It's food.